Hi. Can you hear me now? All right. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Wow, lackluster. Come on. It's late in the afternoon, I know. Get some coffee. How are you doing? I know you. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to introduce our panelists, our founding partners. I'm really honored to be hosting such an esteemed group. First up, Janet Balis, Senior Vice President, Head of Sales and Strategy and Marketing, Partnerships at AOL. I think you can sit. Next up, Rob Bennett, General Manager, Executive Producer, Microsoft, MSN. Next up, Jamie Byrne, Global Head of Content Strategy at YouTube. Next up, Andy Forssell, Senior Vice President of Content at Hulu. Next up, our host, John McCarus, Senior Vice President, Group Director, Brand Content at Digitas. And last but certainly not least, Erin McPherson, Head of Original Programming, Video Programming at Yahoo. So, like I said, it's quite an honor for a lowly television person like myself to be hosting the founding partners of the Digital Content NewFront. And I thought I could start by asking you, John, the person who brought us all together, or the person who represents the group that brought us all together, why? You came up with the founding principles of what this is supposed to be and why these partners are all here. And I thought you could take a second and just explain to us what that is, what are the founding principles, and what it means to you.
Well, you know, it's been a really fascinating 3 or 4 months, and I think we've all envisioned this for some time now, and timing is everything. And there was an opportunity last fall for all of us to get together and form what is now, as you heard Mark Beeching say, a content-led media market around the creative market space here at the Digitas NewFront. And in order to do that, I think it came together because we're seeing massive investments in original content over the last 12 months like we've never seen before, which is following the audience opportunity, and all of these partners obviously are leading that. And so they came together very quickly under the guise of partners who are leveraging leading original video content at quality and scale, and this is the group that represents that opportunity.
Cool, and so scale I get. What does quality mean to you? I mean, because there's a wide array. Television has a wide array of content, but online is an infinite array of content. What does quality mean when you think of that word?
Well, I know we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about quality a lot in this conversation. I think, you know, our perspective would be it's content that has the qualities inherent in driving audience and driving repeat audience and driving sharing.
Cool. Well, see, and I think when I think of what you're all doing, and I look at the video content that comes across the entire media spectrum, I think of television as not a box or a device, but as an exchange between a storyteller and an audience. And it seems to me that a lot of what you guys are doing is what I would consider television. And Erin, I'm going to start with you as one of the partners. I mean, especially when you look at what you just announced and the stuff that you're doing, it does sound and feel a lot like TV to me. What do you think?
Well, with your definition of TV, then it is. It is a dialogue between storyteller and audience. If we look at TV, the genre that it's defined as now, this is not TV. This is what I've called before TV on steroids. This is everything that's great about the medium of television as we know it, plus everything that is unique and exceptional about digital. That's video on demand. That's having the experience anytime, anywhere, on any screen. That's immersing deeply or just immersing on an episode by episode basis. And that's what we're doing at Yahoo. Is the beauty of this is we're not bound by the 22 or 44 minute format. We're not bound by linear time and space. I think to some earlier remarks, the scarcity that's being created isn't created by time. It's created by content, by the uniqueness of the content and the experience, and that's really what we're about creating.
And so the scarcity you're building is the kind of level of production you're doing. I look at the slate that you just announced, and it would be the envy of any television network. The talent, you have Jeff Goldblum, Anthony Zucker, and then the clip we're going to take a look at. These are what would be considered in my world blockbusters. How do you get that level of talent involved in what you do?
Yeah, this is something that at our NewFront yesterday, and we were very excited just coming off of that event, and want to thank Digitas and thank all of my counterparts for doing this, coming together in totally an unprecedented way. But one of our strategic pillars, programming pillars, is blockbusters, and I think that's because our platform, reaching 700 million unique users worldwide, is positioned to do the Jerry Bruckheimer, Michael Bay, I was going to mix those two up, of the internet, those big blowout blockbusters. And so Tom Hanks, which is the piece of content we're going to look at right now, that's going to be our first digital blockbuster, if you will. Tom Hanks came to us with his first digital project because of our scale and our ability to create these immersive experiences to surround the video. So you can just have a full screen video only experience, or you can immerse in a completely three-dimensional experience with maps, with game components, with real life news articles, since Yahoo as a news provider can contextualize things across the network. So yeah, Hanks was convinced, and we're going to go for it with him probably June or July. And
this is not only just he's involved in it, he wrote this. So this is one of his big first pieces of writing as well, right?
Yes, so he wrote it, he stars in it. It's an animated 90-minute science fiction story about a world in which the only form of power and energy is electricity. So it has a green message, but it's not hitting you over the head. It's a really compelling story.
It's not overly earnest. And really looking at it, it delivers the promise of this medium in a way that I couldn't even imagine until I watched the clip.
We're very excited about it. He's quoted as saying, and he may say it in this piece, this story requires the audience to participate and work at it. He embraced ambiguity. When we brought him to CES, he said this. He said the internet, he found, could embrace ambiguity in a way that television and film were not for him. Because what we want to do is build a dialogue around the storylines that aren't explained in the way that Lost or The Wire or some of those great series have these storylines that don't immediately tie up neatly in a bow. So he found that really an exceptional part of doing something digitally, is that you can have that dialogue go on ancillary to the story. As the audience says, who is that man? And they didn't explain what his role is, and maybe you find out 6 episodes later, that kind of.
Cool. Well, I think you're going to really love this. Let's take a look at the Yahoo original, Electric City.
The Electric City shows human behavior at its most messy and human behavior at its most noble.
All who respect our authority over electrical power enjoy the benefits.
I was fascinated by this idea of who has the influence, who has the power.
Influence is always swung like a sword.
When I first read it, I did a double take because I couldn't believe this was coming out of Tom's imagination and his talent as a writer, and then to top it off, science fiction.
It's the third generation after that great cataclysmic event.
Electric City is a very obscure, complex whole universe he's dreamed up. It absolutely represents the deception and the illusions that are the world we're living in right now.
Animation allows us to imagine anything we want to.
Are you ready to change the world?
This is what you must understand about the Electric City. Life can continue along. Human beings will continue to survive, and they will get along exactly as they do right now.
So that's pretty exciting, and please. It's exciting not just because you're reuniting Holland Taylor and Tom Hanks for the first time since Bosom Buddies, but anyone? You're probably too young to remember that.
I couldn't hear you because of the acoustics.
But it's really exciting. I get excited just looking at it. So I'm going to change gears here. I'm going to go to Jamie. So if that's a blockbuster, if that's kind of almost what you conceive as almost a mass audience target there, what you're doing is really building a series of channels around niches. Is that fair?
So, what we think is happening right now is very similar to what happened in the 80s. With the advent of cable. So in the 70s, we had 4 networks. They were all mainstream networks because it was incredibly expensive to broadcast terrestrially, across the nation. In the 80s, we saw cable, which changed the economics of distribution. That allowed us to go from 4 networks to hundreds of networks, and those networks got more niche. If you loved sports in the 70s, you watched Wide World of Sports, and it was on Saturday, right? When you got to the 80s, you had ESPN 24/7. So what's happening now is we're transitioning from the cable delivery of video content to the internet delivery of video content. And that's going to massively change the economics of distribution. It's going to mean we're going to go from hundreds of channels to thousands of channels. Some of them will be mainstream, but most of them will end up being niche, serving small, underserved audiences. And others will also be global because we have that ability through internet distribution. Yeah, but
Deloitte, in their media predictions for 2012, they had this great quote that I love. It says, choice is precious, but choosing is a chore. So when you talk about millions of channels, that seems like a huge pain in the ass for the consumer. You're making 100 channels or so, the rumor goes. How do you help the audience member find the content that they want?
So, what we're doing right now at YouTube is actually channelizing the platform. If you think about YouTube over the past 6 years, it's really been a platform about individual videos. So you come in, you watch one video, and then as a user, you have to choose the next video that you're going to watch. So we've decided to reorient the entire experience around channels, or another way to say that is around brands. So we've redesigned the site. If you take a look at it, we have a programming guide that users can customize. And then we invested in this first 100 channels across 20 verticals to get the ecosystem started. And so at the end of the day, this is about networks or channels or brands that act as programmers, helping users find the content that they're passionate about, really curating.
That's the first time I've heard it described that way. So you've got 100 channels across 20 verticals. And it sounds like you just said that you're starting this you're seeding each one of these gardens, hoping that stuff's going to grow in behind each one of these things in the verticals?
Yeah, absolutely. We think we're just getting things kick-started, and we think that, additional capital will start to flow into the market, and other people will start to launch, channels on their own.
So you're creating the pathways that other people use the tracks in behind you.
We're taking the risk out of the scenario for the content creators, so that we can start to build the business, and hopefully that brings the viewers, that brings the great brands and advertisers, and then the whole thing can start to roll.
I get it. I will say I had not heard it explained exactly that way before, and it really, that's an aha moment for me. It makes a whole lot of sense. So what we're going to look at here is a great example, because this is, I would say, a lot of people think that this is a particularly underserved market that you're addressing with this show, and especially online. It seems as if in the digital space, the Latino Hispanic market is not terribly well served, especially from a video content sensibility. So what are we going to look at here?
So exactly that. We really do believe in addressing underserved markets. So we're making a big bet against the Latino space. This particular example is from Nuevon, which comes from Ben Silverman, who's Electus, and Sofia Vergara's Latin World Entertainment. This is one particular show in their channel. This is a show featuring Manolo, who's Sofia Vergara's son. It's a reality show about her life, and it's really just kind of like a teaser. So the two things that I think are interesting about this that I want you to take away is, one, that it's addressing an underserved market, and then at the very end of the video, I'd like you to pay attention to what Manolo does, because I think it actually starts to demonstrate how what we're doing is different than TV.
Cool. Can you say the title of it for me? Because my Spanish is awful.
Oh, I can't do that.
Mi vida con Toti?
You'll say it. I can't.
Mi vida con Toti. So let's play the clip.
So I mean, I think that part at the end, to us is really important because it's about engagement, and he's asking the community to kind of connect with the content and connect with the channel. And we think at the end of the day, from a brand or a marketer point of view, what more can you ask for than a hyper engaged audience? That's
cool, and it's nice to see you're giving ugly people a chance to be on camera. But thank you also for the segue, because the idea of that engagement and that connectivity it really leads into the next person on the panel, and also the next piece of content, both grammatically and figuratively. Connect is a way, Rob, that you're using a device to basically create a new piece of programming. I don't think I've seen, I mean, everybody here is using computers to create a new piece of programming to a certain extent, or mobile devices or stuff like that, but you're actually using a gaming device to create a new piece of programming, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, I think if you go back to the evolution of storytelling, which is how you started, from the printed word to radio, the very first radio shows were just people reading the printed word, right? They weren't taking advantage of this new medium to its fullest. And then radio plays started to develop, and you started to see, sound effects happening and more drama being portrayed over the airwaves. And then the same thing happened when we went from radio to television. The first days of television were people just reading radio plays on TV, and you got to see people making the sound effects. And then we started to take advantage of the best parts about television as a medium. And I think with the internet, we've sort of been in those early days. And I've been doing video now on the internet for about 8 years, and I think we're still in this very nascent stage where we haven't started to fully tap the power of the PC in this case, or connected computing devices like the Xbox and Kinect, where you can actually take advantage of not just the viewing experience, but participate in the experience and participate with your friends. Today, we've sort of taken the television and given you a little mini TV on the screen, and then we give you a little water cooler over here to go talk to your friends about, and then occasionally we let brands try to fit their way into the conversation. We have the opportunity now, and the technology and the storytellers now that are willing to take risks, and brands that are willing to take risks, to bring that all together into one very, very truly immersive experience.
Yeah, I mean, the great fragmentation, the asymmetrical viewing pattern that's going on all video, on all platforms, really creates this siloed mentality in the home. Mom's watching something over here, dad's watching something over here, bro and sis are each on their devices in their rooms watching that. It seems as if, and tell me if I'm wrong, you're trying to maybe pull them all back together just a little bit more, at least with this program. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I always have this dream that we'll start to bring back that sort of Sunday night tradition of the family getting around and watching a movie together. And I think there are lots of ways that you can do that. It's possible now to completely fragment and everybody just is engaging in parallel play, but there are storytelling opportunities that I think can bring together the mom and the dad and the kids, or friends who are separated geographically, who might have common interests and want to participate in the story. So we do have this power, because we're globally distributed, because we have this amazing technology and really rich storytellers, to reach people sort of wherever they are.
And is this I'm imagining this is the first of many. So what we're going to see is a show that uses the Kinect to tell a story and to engage the audience. Are your devices that look and act like this, Xbox? I mean, the Xbox has become its own cable box to a certain extent. But is interactivity kind of high on your list? Or is it just one of the many elements that you're going to be bringing to the table?
No, absolutely. What we're going to see is a sort of a concept. It's not even fully baked yet, no pun intended once you see it. But it's a concept for how you can build these interactive experiences using the power of Xbox and Kinect and connected devices. And it absolutely is sort of a conversation starter that we want to have with content creators, with brands, and with other technology providers to really start to plow forward into this new frontier of creating these experiences that span the PC and the living room and mobile phones and every other possible screen that people could connect on.
Okay, well, let's take a quick clip, because if anybody who has kids here, you're going to really love this, because it's just like the perfect thing for a home with kids in it. So let's take a look at Kids Kitchen.
There's no denying, people love to cook, but not just for the dinner table. Cooking has become the newest and most engaging form of entertainment that has turned chefs into celebrities, brands have jumped on board and have become pivotal in delighting consumers by way of the culinary story. But what's the next level in food programming? It's time to bring kids into the kitchen. Microsoft Advertising and Xbox Connect bring you
Kids Kitchen,
a sizzlingly fun, interactive, and educational way to get kids cooking while giving mom insight into the healthy foods and delicious recipes her kids will really eat. In this innovative game meat show, kids choose their favorite ingredients and products and then work alongside a celebrity chef to dice, chop, saute, and simmer their way to delicious fun. Once they've perfected their sous chef skills, their recipes go straight to mom. Odds are, they'll finish dinner that night and ask for seconds. The power and attraction of Xbox gaming, the excitement of culinary entertainment, and the limitless possibilities of Connect technology, all combined to enable your brand to bring families a breakthrough culinary entertainment and gaming experience, and weave your products and messaging throughout. Give moms and brands an opportunity like no other. Kids Kitchen. Tap into their tastes, stir up some fun.
Very cool. So, Janet, damn it, that's another joke. It's a Rocky Horror joke. You're right. Yeah, it's the first time you've ever heard that joke. So, you're taking. So, correct me if I'm wrong. HuffPo just won the first ever digital Pulitzer. Is that correct?
It's the first time a Pulitzer Prize for world-class journalism has been awarded to a native digital media company.
So you're taking that Pulitzer, and you're abandoning the text and going right at video. I mean, you're taking what worked great in the text, in the printed world. You know, I think for a lot of people, HuffPo has replaced their newspaper. You know, that's where you go now for your news on a daily basis. You're now going to expand that into a television product or a video product. Why?
Well, I would first just say I don't think we're abandoning the text. You know, when you look at the core experience, obviously, there's a tremendous amount of both short and long-form journalism that's happening every day through beautiful photography and incredible reporting. But I think what we saw was this unprecedented level of social action that was happening in the site. In fact, we just crossed the 150 millionth comment on the site to date. And so, you know, when you think about that and then think that that's moderated comments, you know, it's kind of a staggering statistic. And that's just comments. That's not likes and tweets and shares and all the other social actions we see. So that, coupled with the uniquely real-time environment of Huffington Post, where analytics and brilliant editorial are sort of molding together in this exquisite environment, and we said, what happens if you start to marry that to streaming video? And so with HuffPost Streaming Network, what we'll be doing is taking the zeitgeist and the real-time script that emerges not just from content and a programmed environment, but also from the social interaction from the audience, and using that to program a live video experience that can either be consumed in that environment or on demand. And it's hard to proclaim oneself as disruptive, but I think that, you know, it's certainly an ambitious and really exciting innovation.
What I really like about the panel is everybody's got a kind of different perspective. You're the only one up here who's doing live on a kind of semi or actually regular basis. Yeah. That's the whole premise, is live, right?
Yeah, so ultimately it will be a 24/7 network. We're going to start off with 12 hours of programming every day, 5 days a week. It'll play again overnight, and then we'll
12 hours of programming every day?
Every day, live.
Holy cow.
And then playing again overnight, and then highlights on the weekend.
Wow. And so it's on. You wake up and that channel or that network is going.
Yeah, and I think it really puts the audience in control, because they may say, I enjoy what they're programming right now, and this is a topic that's really relevant to me, or they may visit it through, you know, we're getting a million Facebook referrals a day on average right now to the site, so you might discover the content because your friend was watching it live, or you may say, you know what, I'm not into what's on the screen right now, and I'm actually going to go into the on-demand experience, where we're going to be cutting it into tens of thousands of clips that consumers can engage with at their own leisure.
And so HuffPo has a point of view. I think it's pretty clear. And please don't tell Ariana that I said that you were abandoning the printed word. Are you going to be more like talk radio, or more like breaking news, or some kind of mixture of the both?
I think it's got a lot of those elements. I think what's really empowering, and you'll see it in the clip, is the idea that the audience, today you experience something in media and it may stimulate a social reaction. Somebody comments, and those people might go back and forth on the screen. But suddenly, to see those people pulled into the core experience and watching them debate each other as part of the core programming, it brings a whole new dimension to what social means. And I think for a lot of the experiences that we see that combine content and social, let's say we talk about social television, it starts with television and then we hope that it becomes a social experience either in the way it's programmed or the reaction we elicit. Here, social really is threaded into the core DNA of the programming itself, and I think you'll get a clear sense of that.
Cool. Well, let's take a look. And just really quickly, this is going to be one of many channels or pieces of content inside AOL On?
So AOL On is 14 premium channels of content. And I think this idea of channels obviously is not unique to us, but we believe it's a short list of 14 lifestyle and news and information areas. And we really think that consumers are looking for that point of view. And so there we're really focusing on the idea of curation of those premium experiences, taking advantage of the hundreds of thousands of short-form video assets that we have. And we're layering that in with the idea of influential people building playlists so that they can really inform what you should be watching from a video standpoint. And so that will live in parallel and be seamless with the Huffington Post streaming network.
Cool. Well, let's take a look at, what's it called?
HuffPost streaming network.
HuffPost streaming.
All right, let's talk headlines.
Beverly, did you hear what Mike just said about your post?
So here's another chance for you to be part of the HuffPost editorial process with You Write the Headline.
Our Healthy Living editor is on the way in from the newsroom, and Dr. Oz is Skyping in as we speak.
Good. Okay, I get it.
Floor is yours. The conversation starts here.
Very cool. So Andy, so you have built very different from everybody else up here. You've built a network around or a hub around previously produced, existing, very well-known television content. I mean, you have some films up there, but the primary driver of your business and your traffic has been professionally produced television episodic series. Is that correct? And I will tell you that Hulu has now become my daughter's favorite channel, which is a very interesting thing because she loves all the shows that are watching there. But now you're getting into originals. Why?
Well, first of all, I got to say it's interesting to hear everybody's story here, because I don't think any of us are doing anything that is at all similar. There's 5 very different stories
it's really
here,
diverse.
That's pretty cool. We start, I think one way you could say is a little bit more of a traditional point of view than most of what you're hearing today, and that we start with a couple fundamental goals. One is we think if you can, we're interested in unleashing creativity that's out there in fairly traditional formats, but great storytellers who just don't seem to fit in the landscape today. So that's one thing, is find a way to get great stories told that haven't been for whatever reason. And then secondly, just make it really, really easy for people to find those shows if they're a show that they like. You create those moments of what seem like serendipity to say, wow, I found this show that I think is phenomenal. I'm going to go tell my friend about it, or tell my brother to watch it. And we look to create those moments with a lot of smart use of data and a lot of things that a lot of our folks here are doing as well. So very basic things, and I think there's a lot of potential in them, but we also start with the fact that what viewers are going to see on Hulu is the best of what was on TV last night. So the bar is pretty high. I mean, the question we all ask is, and creators want to know, is how do I not get lost? And so we have to start, I think, from a position of, we're not doing a lot of volume. We're doing a small number of shows to start, because it's got to stand out in that crowd, and it's got to cause a viewer to say, wow, look at all those choices. I'm going to try this new thing from Hulu.
It seems as if we were talking about voice before we got up here.
Yeah.
It seems as if you've taken a very specific slice of what's been working for you in the existing content as a direction, a brand direction for your original programming. Is that fair to say? It seems to have all kind of come from a similar type of point of view.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating to me hear Jamie talk about 1,000 channels, and you made the great point about choice. That's work for folks, and I think a great experiment over the next couple of years is, do people want 1,000 channels they can see, or even 100 channels they can see, or do they want to see a channel that maybe doesn't have a label but somehow feels to them like a personalized channel? None of us know. I mean, we're all doing experiments to see where that goes. I think, Evan, to your point, the first few shows we've done do maybe have a similar flavor, but the next 3 or 4 you'll see us do are very different. So I think our bar to say yes to a show has been really quality driven. Like, do we think there's just a spark here of a story that absolutely should get told and for which there's an audience on Hulu? And I think you'll see us get a lot more diverse in what those pockets of audience are.
Is there an audience you're trying to super serve with your originals, or is it really? It does seem you have Richard Linklater, who's never done television before, and has a very unusual storytelling style. He's an independent filmmaker, and of the independent filmmakers, he's one of the most independent.
Yeah.
So to make a series with him was a bold choice in and of itself. Morgan Spurlock, a little bit more mainstream than Richard, but still pretty specific in his storytelling. Seth's show, the Awesomes, which is an animated show. They feel that they're targeting that kind of maybe young guy demographic. Am I off on that, or?
Maybe a little bit so far, but I think that's more. I think that's more just an artifact of the cool stuff we ran into first, and of course we have that audience on Hulu. I think the commonality across those is, Seth Meyers and Mike Shoemaker had this idea for the show for 5 or 6 years they've wanted to do, and there just wasn't a home for it, and we love that. Those guys are fantastic, and it seems crazy that there wasn't an easy way for them to get that show made, and we could make a difference, and let them make it in a really smart way, where you can go try and find 2 or 3 million people that love it to death, rather than try and shoot for the stars and try and get 10 million people to kind of like it. Linklater is a great example. I mean, 20 years, the guy's done, as you said, just couldn't be a more independent voice in film. He had ideas for episodic TV over the years, but where was he going to go with it? Like, there just wasn't a home. And so we heard his idea and said, hey, make the show you want to make. This is fantastic. So I think you're seeing the early stages of
It's artist-driven primarily?
Very creator-driven, yeah.
Cool. Well, let's take a look at this is your first? The Morgan show. The Morgan show was your first?
Yeah, Day in the Life was our first, last summer, the first season ran. We're finishing up season 2 now.
Great. So let's take a look at Hulu's first original series, A Day in the Life. So now here I am. I'm the television guy, and I'm looking at all of you spending these millions and millions of dollars that I don't have access to on what I would consider television. Is this a replacement for television? Is this a supplement to television? What is the ultimate ambition? And if we're doing this, let's all get together again in 5 years. I'm sure we'll all have the same jobs. And what do you see it going? What is the end game here? Where are you headed? And I'll throw this open to the field, but.
So I mean, the first thing I would say is that we think screen time is growing. 5 years ago, you couldn't carry around a device in your pocket that played video, right? So we think it's complementary, and we think that different content is going to work in different contexts. You're going to watch something different when you're waiting for a bus than you are sitting on the couch with your 60-inch plasma. So we think they work together really well.
And Erin, I look at you. I mean, so that's a compliment answer. I look at the stuff you're making. Katie Couric, Jeff Goldblum. I mean, these are big names there. Not that everybody doesn't have big names involved, but it seems like you're going right at that television viewer on a new platform. Is that not the case?
It is the case, and I will say we refer to ourselves often as the first digital network. Because of our scale, we really do operate as a network does, programming things contextually across our verticals. We do have another attribute of a network, which is an on-staff, incredible lineup of hosts that work full-time for Yahoo. Our finance and news reporting that are on staff. Jeff Mackey and Matt Nesto from CNBC do a show, Breakout. We have Erin Task on the Daily Ticker on our finance channel that do more views than any show on CNBC. So we are definitely right in that space. What I find fascinating, just as we talk about where we're all headed here, is that TV viewership is not going down. So I don't know if it is replacing or if we're all just becoming total media addicts Because recently, an eMarketer study I was looking at said, you know, people encounter over 11 hours of media a day. And, you know, my work days lately have been like 18 hours, so I feel like I'm encountering 18 hours of media. But the truth is, you know, still people are watching TV for 5+ hours a day. And then the video, part of why we're just gearing up incredibly with our video franchises, producing now over 40 original video series a month, over 300 episodes a month, is that that's where consumers are, and that's where they're heading, is online video, yet the TV is still on. So we definitely want to be both a companion to a TV experience, and we bought a company, Into Now, that provides a companion viewing experience, and we also want to be the primary viewing experience. And I think that's what is incredible, to your earlier point about choice, is I think the choice is going to be endless, and what's going to differentiate when everybody's got so much media to consume all the time, you know?
Yeah,
so.
and go ahead.
So I think, you know, it's sort of the wrong question to say, is it a replacement for television or is it, you know, complementary? Television is just the screen, right? And it's just the technology that we've used to deliver stories to the audience for the last, you know, 50 years. I think what we're doing is we're expanding the palette of programming that's available on whatever screen, right? I turn on my connected TV today, and there's a Yahoo app on the TV. There's a YouTube app on the TV. So now, instead of having 4 networks or hundreds of networks, right, I've got literally thousands of programming choices. And so now you've just sort of made the channel lineup accessible to more programmers, right? We're not portals, we're not global infrastructure delivery houses, right? We're programmers. And we're programming a different kind of content and maybe making those channels more accessible to more storytellers and more audiences around the world. But at the end of the day, it's really about just delivering that programming wherever people want to see it.
Yeah, well, let me just make one point here. 3 things. 1, more people BitTorrent Breaking Bad than watch Breaking Bad on television. So there's a kind of weird shift in the ecosystem that's happening that sometimes you can monetize an audience and sometimes you can't. The second thing is, unlike the cable channels, you don't have that second revenue stream. There are 105 million pay TV homes in this country, billions of dollars of affiliate fees going out the door that help supplement things like Breaking Bad and Walking Dead and all the other AMC shows that I'll never get to work alongside again. But the question I have for you is, knowing all of that, you have basically a single stream of revenue, which is advertising. How do you know if it's working? How, you know, you have a live television show. Everybody else here, and you have an on-demand platform. You all have on-demand platforms here. We were talking about this. It's going to take a little bit longer, it seems, to aggregate an audience at scale than it might on a traditional television network. Or am I wrong? Am I misunderstanding the platform? And I look primarily to you and to you as the experts in that area.
I think that the audience is there right now. I mean, when you start to look at any of the partners up here and you start to look at the audience that they're consuming in their online video environments relative to top-tier cable network, it's at critical mass now. But from an advertiser standpoint, I think, you know, the consumer decides for all of us. It decides what we program and it decides how we monetize, right? To me, that's the simple truth of everything, which is if the programming is connecting with its audience, and I think all of us are going to be doing a lot of experimentation. You know, how short form or long form do you go? How interactive do you go? You know, as the capabilities start to really come to fruition and people find that over-the-top experience on their screen. And as the consumer experience evolves and we start to take full creative advantage of the kinds of stories we can tell and the experiences we can create, I think you know, some advertisers will be there from the very inception of some of the most innovative formats, and others it will take a while. I mean, I will tell you, with HuffPost Streaming Network, you know, we've had an incredible dialogue with top-tier brands, but it demands a new model. So while the on-demand experience is predominantly you know, a pre-roll experience, you know, much like it would be in a lot of online video, in the core live show, how do you start to treat brand integration in the programming itself? And because it's so real-time and so dynamic, we're actually working with our partners who've come on board to almost establish a menu of acceptable brand integrations that gracefully integrate their core messages in ways that still maintain the integrity of the programming, but allow the producers to nimbly use one treatment or another. So it's, it's yet to be discovered for a lot of what we're talking about.
And just to add to that, don't forget the power of VOD. In the web, we have to earn our audience every single day. And so you talk about a show like Breaking Bad, which has an incredible VOD track record. I think what you're going to see with the opportunity is just a massive lift in quality programming, and I think the space needs to be very, very proud of all the content that these partners are creating. All boats are lifting. I think, I would also like to say we're very, very proud of all these partners for coming together at this time with very little fanfare, seeing the opportunity, having the courage, seeing the vision, and it's going to be an exciting ride the next couple of years.
Yeah, I got to say, it does. You made the point that it's like the early days of cable, and it really, you look at these brands up here, and we were talking about this earlier. It's going to take brands to help the consumers choose what to watch, and it does seem, it's very fascinating to look at how differentiated each one of these brands is. Just looking at the video examples, the way you're approaching it, the people you're working with, it's pretty impressive. I sit back, and as somebody who is really on the outside of that, it's really something to watch, and I think it's going to be fun to watch it year by year grow. Should we open to the audience, or?
You're the moderator, my friend.
I'm the moderator. I'm looking to my host. I guess does anybody here have any questions that I have not asked? Anyone? Nobody. Wow, you are a lively group. I do like your socks, by the way. Those are very nice. We are over by 40 seconds. I want to thank all of these esteemed panelists. I want to thank you for inviting me to host this or moderate this. I've really enjoyed it. Really great getting to know all of you. Thanks for becoming the founding partners. Thanks to all of you, and we'll see you again next year.
Thank you, Evan. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.